All right, happy Monday, Inspire Beauty. Super pumped. We've got another guest speaker tonight. Kristin is a coach. She's on Julianne's team, but Julianne's not your upline coach, correct? No. So she is like, I'm honorary happy and fit. So her and I are like honorary team sisters. But I love watching Kristin on social media, you guys. And when I was looking at like, who can I bring in to speak to our team that I think would be not just relevant, but also very relatable for you guys because of the season she's in her business and just the season she's in her life in terms of what she's got on her plate, I figured that this would be an amazing guest speaker for you guys so that you're not looking at somebody who you're like, I can't attain that. I think when Kristin is on social media, she's captivating. She's somebody that stops my scroll. After this call, you're going to want to go follow her. You don't need to friend request her, you guys, because like don't take up her friends list with awesome clients that she could be talking to. Just try to follow her. You could follow her Instagram. I'm sure she'll share the handle too. But follow, success leaves clues. And I think sometimes we overcomplicate social media and how we're supposed to post and how we're supposed to talk and all the things. And I want her to speak some life into you tonight about that. She's a wife. She's got 3 little ones, you guys. She usually is a substitute teacher. She's doing all the things right now with home learning in every way, shape, and form. While schools are closed, she's a volunteer diamond coach, you guys. So the person speaking tonight, like she is where the majority of you guys are like inches away from being in your business. So cling to that. Cling to what's possible. And she's busy, but I love what she shared with me. She says that she chooses her busy and she likes to call herself busy, but blessed. Kristin, thank you so much for giving us your time tonight. I'm going to just pass it over to you, my friend.
All right. If I get interrupted, I'm sorry. Not only am I a wife of 3 littles and all that busyness, but I'm also married into a farming family. So my husband has the boys with him, but I've got my 2-year-old here. So fingers crossed I don't get interrupted, but if I do, I apologize in advance. Okay. So if you follow my social media, you know that I will often share my struggles, but I always share them with a solution. If I'm in the struggle, then I share the fact that I know that this struggle is not going to be something that is going to always be there. Like I know that there's always a way out of that struggle. And so I always share that. One of the things that I always share, like in my stories though, is that I dig into a ton of PD. I just started reading Fear is My Homeboy, and I gotta tell you, like it was captivating within the introduction. Like before I even got into chapter 1, I was like, holy crap, I love this book. It's amazing. Another one of my, like if you wanna know like one of my favorite PD books that I've like reread, it's Failing Forward, because I think that book shows so many people in like so many different circumstances how they can go from struggle to solution and come out on top. I already know the next book I'm reading, it's Untamed. I know that I'm doing the Next 90 challenge with Rachel and Dave Hollis right now. So that's part of me. That's part of my brand, is that I dig into PD, and that's how I'm able like to so easily share how I go from my struggles, but still show the light of solution. I want to just throw some examples out at you guys tonight, because that's one of the ways I learn the best, is just to hear examples of how something's done. And the more examples I hear of something, the more I can be like, ooh, I can show how I went from that struggle to come out on top, or I can share how I had this struggle and I tweaked my life so that it was no longer a struggle. So you can share your struggles without throwing a pity party. Draw people in with how you focus on that you're not going to stay stuck there. So if you're in the moment, show how you're not, like you already actively know you're not going to stay stuck there. If the struggle was a past struggle, show how you're not still stuck there. One of my like biggest struggles that so many people on my team know, that have been on this journey with me so long, is that food has been a struggle. Insert when I first became a coach, I became a coach because I was 5 weeks postpartum with my second child, and I was eating a cupcake every 2 hours when I breastfed him. I also have type 2 diabetes on both sides of my family. Okay, so I could say stuck in the struggle that I'm addicted to sugar, or I could take action. At 5 weeks postpartum, I decided I was taking action, and I haven't stopped. Fast forward to after I had my third child. It was 6 weeks after she was born that 80-day obsession came out. And I dove into timed nutrition. And I remember looking at the timed nutrition, and I had a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, a newborn. And I looked at that timed nutrition and I said, holy shit, this is overwhelming. But I decided I was going for it, and I shared it. I shared it in my social media, and I shared how I was intimidated by it. I shared how I was going for it anyways, and I shared every bit of it along the journey. And then fast forward to this January, the end of January, I did Ultimate Reset for the first time. And I shared how, I had gotten my nutrition figured out with Time Nutrition, but that I knew that certain foods really irritated my body. And so it was time to level up. That's a struggle, like you can be really good with your nutrition, but if there's certain foods that are irritating your gut, then it makes you feel like you don't have the progress that you really deserve. And so I shared that was a struggle of mine, that, I work my butt off, I eat well, but I'm still not seeing quite the results that I wanted. And so I shared how I was leveling up with doing the Ultimate Reset. And then more recently, like in the last week, I shared how I've still been pretty good with my nutrition through the quarantine, but there's been a little more snacking, and there's been, maybe a few more sweets than I would normally indulge in anymore. And so I shared that struggle, but then I shared it with a solution. I have nicknamed the 3-day refresh. I call it the habit hacker. That is like my name for it. It's the habit hacker, because 3 days kicks you in the butt and you're like, okay, I'm back on track. Let's go. So I shared those struggles. I shared how I struggled with my addiction to sugar. I shared how I was intimidated by nutrition. Time Nutrition was the first time I had ever committed to a meal plan. And I was already 2 years into my journey. So I shared that. I shared how I needed to level up. I shared how I needed to have a little kick in the butt. So share those struggles, but share it with a solution. Another example would be, if you guys have watched my social media at all, you may not realize just how darn short I am. I'm only 5'3.5". I'm short. And I remember growing up thinking that I could never be strong without being bulky. And I've shared that. And I shared how I was a cardio queen, because if this girl lifts weights, she's going to look like she is from Shrek. And I'm going to be that short, stocky girl. So I shared how that was a concern of mine. That was a struggle of mine. That was a limiting belief of mine. But how instead I surrounded myself with people that challenged me and challenged those beliefs that I had put in my mind, and those stories that I was telling myself, and how now, rather than just being that cardio queen that's chasing skinny, I embody strength. Just a moment. I'll be right back.
That's the step, and I can see on the step.
This is real life, you guys. Real life.
All right, I'm back. Real life for sure. Okay, so I talk about how I was so scared to get bulky, and instead now I still do cardio. I mean, and I still love it, but that I'm not scared of being strong anymore, and how that is such a huge focus of mine, is becoming strong. I share how we went from like living paycheck to paycheck to paying off $4,000 in debt from the beginning of February to the end of April, and how, you know, it could be a limiting belief that we live in a small town. I'm a substitute teacher, and my husband works at the hospital for maintenance, and how I could say that, you know what, this is just our life. This is as far as we can go in life. This is just what it is, to deciding that I have options and I can capitalize on those options if I put in the work. So sharing that it was a struggle to live paycheck to paycheck, but I didn't have to stay there, and there is a solution to that. If you've shared my journey, or if you've watched my journey, you've seen that quarantine has been so interesting. My husband still goes to work, but I am home full-time doing e-learning with my boys and tutoring and coaching and all of those things. And there are some overwhelming mommy moments. There have been moments that I have put myself in mommy timeout, just to like give myself 5 seconds. I don't care if they're banging on the other side of my bedroom door, but 5 seconds to breathe. And, you know, but also taking that and turning it and showing that that's exactly why it's so stinking important for me to fill my cup too. Let's see. This is one that I shared just tonight. You know, so many women postpartum, not even postpartum, like a year into marriage or whatever, they find themselves no longer as attractive as they used to be. You know, they see those stretch marks, they see those 10 extra pounds they've got sitting there, they see that C-section scar, that loose skin, whatever. So going from that and seeing myself as unattractive to knowing that I have the tools to change that, and not just change my outward appearance, but also change my mental appearance too. Because you can work as hard as you want on that outside appearance, and if your mental appearance hasn't changed, it's not going to matter. And so showing that solution in my stories. Going from introvert in a small community, feeling stuck by the cliques of those that grew up here. Like I said, I married into a farming family, which means I moved into his small town. And I, for the longest time, as an introvert, felt so isolated because of the cliques that are in such a small town. And the solution is finding my tribe virtually and deciding that being an introvert doesn't mean I have to be a hermit, that I can still be surrounded by these incredible people. If you have followed my journey, you know I love donuts too. So you guys already knew I like cupcakes, but I also love my donuts. And not like just your Casey's donuts. If you're from the Midwest, you know what Casey's is. But like the good donuts, like the donuts from the real donut stores, that are not just pulled out of the freezer, but they are like made fresh, that kind of donut. And being able to share that I love donuts, but I work so hard on my nutrition that I know that I can still have my donuts and still have harmony in my lifestyle. Like it doesn't have to be one way or the other. Like, and showing that solution in my journey, and showing that this is not perfection. This is progress. And this is daily choices, and showing that solution. Going from barely being able to run 2 minutes without stopping and taking a breath, and like, you know, one of those like hands on your knees, like, like one of those moments, like, to being able to take on half marathons with little, very little traditional training, because I have the solution. I have at-home workouts that are the best cross training that money can buy. And I share that in my journey. If you guys have seen, like, last November, I did a half marathon at the end of November, and it was freaking cold. It was Iowa, y'all. It was cold. There was ice. There was snow. It was awful. And I hate being cold. I hate it. But I shared that I ran less than 9 miles total to train for that half marathon, and I PR'd. You guys, I get to show the total solution that way. How freaking cool is that? So showing that I could barely run before to being able to take on a half marathon with hardly training for it, that's bomb. From being nervous to share my journey openly, to just being able to share my journey and just be raw and vulnerable. And how empowering that is, and showing that in my stories and showing that in my posts, that, you know, I used to struggle in isolation, and I used to just take it all in and just not share it, like not even share it with like those that are close to me. And how now I have the solution of community, and a community that I can trust, and a community that is going to support me, is going to love me no matter what I'm going through, no matter what I have gone through, and just how they have helped me heal so much. I don't think I ever would have healed from my postpartum depression that I had stuffed down for 2 years, if I didn't have this community. And I share that. So sharing the struggle that, yeah, I've gone through postpartum depression. Yeah, I went through it in isolation. Yeah, I didn't share it with anybody. But when you have the right people that are around you and supporting you, show that in your posts, show that in your stories, that those people help you heal. So I'm just going to finish out. I know I went like super quick. I've got a kiddo that has to jump on a Zoom in like 10 minutes. So I'm trying to hustle. But I just want to share, like, this is how Rachel Hollis ended the Rise X Live conference this couple weeks, not last weekend, weekend before. And you know what? I thought it was just so powerful and so meaningful. And FYI, if you're doing PD, share it with your team. Like, lead it with your team, because you can learn something, but you'll learn it even deeper if you teach it to somebody else. So, the end of this quote: you are strong enough. You are brave enough. You are enough. And you are not in this alone. And I want us just to like end on that. If you guys have any questions, I still have 10 minutes, but I wanted to leave it just a little time.
So good. You guys type your questions in the chat that you have for Kristin about her story. I'm going to start with the first one. Can you tell us, because you kind of touched upon that in the beginning, you were nervous. And I know PD has been a big catalyst for you to mentally be able to go out and use your voice. But I know there's plenty of people who feel isolated or are in a struggle, and they're nervous to share it because of the people who are maybe viewing it within their social media. Can you just share with us how you got over that?
How I got over that is
fear of other people and their,
Yes. One of the biggest things is that I posted it anyways. If it made me feel like I was going to puke, I posted it anyways. And I knew that once I posted it, I was not going to allow myself to take it down. Because, you guys, if it's something that makes you nervous to share, if it's if it's something that you're nervous about certain so-and-so seeing, if you're nervous about your grandma May seeing it, just block her from the post. Like, but honestly, those posts that make you want to throw up are the ones that are going to help people the most. Post it anyways.
So good. I wrote puke equals post. I love that. I just appreciated so much of like every relatable struggle that she has in her life. She's using it as a solution to all of this, that there's a tool for all of this. There's a, for overwhelm, with poor nutrition, cupcakes at 2 a.m., a donut fetish, like there's a balance and a harmony and a solution for people who are struggling with that. When she's talking about, how she perceived fitness and all that, even income, she's talking about the community. She's talking about, mom moments right now in quarantine and just all the things. So I think too, you guys, what I hope you're gathering from this is that we have so much more to us than I think sometimes we're offering in terms of our voice on social media, right? Like she just literally gave me her entire life, but not even. I'm sure there's so many other opportunities she has to share struggles that lead us back down the path of the solution we have to offer, which is Beachbody. So this morning on the National Wake Up Call, she shared how what you talk about is what they're going to want. And if all they want is bod, if they don't want to join your team, if they don't care about mindset, if they don't care about nutrition, you got to really come back. Are you actually talking about it and how it's helping in your own life, right? And doing the work for yourself. Leah said, how often do you post something serious? Talk about your balance. Like, are you silly on social media? Are they always long, like stories? Talk about that for a second.
So I tend to do like medium length posts, first of all. Every now and then I'll do a longer one, and every now and then I'll do like a short and sweet one. But I tend to do kind of medium length posts. And then how often do I post something serious? I would say probably like maybe once every other week, unless we're really going through something. But I often when I'm posting something serious, it's coming back to something that I've gone through before. I am very blunt in what I post, but not necessarily always serious.
Love that. Guys, if you have any other questions, I know she's got a couple minutes left, so make sure you type them. Let's see. I'm not seeing anything else come in. My team's quiet tonight, Kristen. You caught them on a quiet night. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time tonight. Thank you for sharing all those examples. Kristen, what's your handle on Instagram?
I will just type it real quick in the chat.
If you guys want to check out, her style, how she speaks, and kind of see how she's using this in motion, everything she shared tonight. You guys jot that down if you want to her Instagram. I'm going to hit stop.